So you now know the difference between money and currency, and we need to go one step further and talk about, not cryptocurrencies, fiat currencies. So fiat currencies is something you'll hear a lot when you get into this sort of sector, and it's a really fascinating topic because basically the money or the currency in your pocket right now in your purse or wallet is not proper currency. It's what we call a fiat currency. Now you have to drag things back a bit and basically go into history a little bit just to understand things. So back in the early 1900s or late 1800s to early 1900s, what the Western or the developed world at the time had was what we call a classical gold standard. So what this meant is that for every pound or dollar in existence, there was an equivalent amount of gold that backed it up in the treasury. And so the currency was 100% backed by gold or silver in the treasury. Now, when you have a currency which is fully backed by gold, that is a good currency system. And because of that, inflation is 0% because the government cannot just print more currency willy-nilly with the printing presses, etc., because it's 100% backed by gold. So if they wanted to increase the currency supply, first of all, the country would have to go out and sell more goods or services to get more gold back into their treasury, then they can print more currency. Now, what tends to happen is war is most governments' favourite hobby, pretty much when you look back in history. And in the old days, whoever could spend more money basically won the war because they got more troops, more horses, more weapons, etc. But the thing is, if you have a classical gold standard where your currency is tied to the gold, you can't just print off more currency willy-nilly. And so what happens, basically the gold standard, the classical gold standard, is like a massive ball and chain to the government's ankles. So what happens in times of need when they want to deficit spend or go to war or just just create money out of thin or currency out of thin air, is they're like, actually instead of 100%, we're going to back our currency 80% to gold. So that gives them a little bit of leeway so they can print more fake currency. And then basically, from sort of after World War I, most people got off, or during World War I, most people got off the classical gold standard and went to this sort of quasi, hash of a gold standard, and that's what we call the gold exchange standard. So it's just a really shitty version of a gold standard. Now, there's one thing you need to know when you look at monetary history is that anything but a 100% fully backed currency is bad. So the currency has to be either 100% backed by gold, otherwise it turns to shit, basically. So this is why those in the know at the time, when they saw that this gold exchange standard was happening, they're like, oh dear, bad things are going to happen. And so what happened is that by the end of World War II, in 1944, I think 27 nations went to Bretton Woods in the States and made a new agreement. And what we had was the Bretton Woods Agreement, and where basically every currency in the world would be backed by the pound and the dollar, and the pound and the dollar would be backed by gold, fixed at $35 an ounce. Now, that opens up a whole can of worms, which we don't have time for now. But basically, that didn't last. And what then happened is that in the 15th of August, 1971, President Nixon cut the link from gold to the US dollar. So what this meant is that the dollar was no longer backed by gold, and it was just a free-floating currency. And basically that meant every currency on the planet was now not backed by anything. It is what we call a fiat currency. Now, the word fiat comes from Latin and it means by government edict. And the reason I said that the stuff in your pockets or purses right now isn't worth anything is because the only reason, a £5 note is worth £5 is because the government says so. That's it. It's not backed by anything. The only reason our currency has any worth is because the amount of people that believe the government in what the government says it's worth. And also, the government demands that you pay its taxes in pounds sterling or euros or dollars or rupees or wherever you are in the world. And the thing is, the moment Nixon got rid of the Bretton Woods system, every currency on the planet became a fiat currency. Now, why is this a big deal? Well, we've had very accurate monetary records for the last 2,400 years, thanks to the Turkish and the Greeks. And the thing is, in that time, we've had at least 11 million different currencies in existence, and they've all crashed and failed. So a fiat currency is a 100% failure rate, and no fiat currency in its any given form lasts more than sort of 20 to 40 years. It always, devalues into a new form of money, so to speak. So yeah, right now we all have fiat currencies. All of the money in my stuff. It's not good. Now, the reason I say everyone's incorrect when they're referring to cryptos as money is because how can a cryptocurrency, I know we haven't gone through cryptos yet, but how can a digital form, a digital currency, so to speak, be money? At best, it is just a digital currency, because the key differential between money and currency, remember, is the store of wealth over long periods of time. And so if you have this digital currency out there like Bitcoin, etc., it is impossible. It cannot be money, because it is not a store of wealth over long periods of time. Your wallets can get hacked. The algorithm itself can be sort of attacked. There's a thing called a 51% attack, which, without going into too much detail, it's called a hard fork, so to speak. And what happens is the cryptocurrency basically splits into two different paths. So what you don't want to happen is having your wealth in a cryptocurrency for it to be attacked and hard forked. So all of a sudden you've ended up with two new different currencies. It's really weird. So it can't be a store of wealth over long periods of time. And also, if you don't have access to the internet, you don't have access to your wealth. If you have no internet or electricity, you have no wealth. Now, I know people are probably thinking, well, okay, well, if it comes to that, then you have much bigger problems to worry about, like looting and civil war, etc. But the thing is, if you are in that situation and you lost power for a couple of weeks or a month, in some countries that does happen, especially in times of war. Well, gold and silver are your big protector there. If you've got physical gold and silver, you can go and transact and buy stuff and look after your family. But if you can't have access to the internet, you haven't got access to your cryptos. So a lot of some people say. So yeah, really, it's not even a fiat currency either, because fiat means by government edict. So the only thing backing a cryptocurrency is the cryptographic laws built into its algorithm, and its sort of engineered scarcity. So it's a pseudo fiat currency at best. So yeah, cryptos are not money, it's just currency. It's just digital currency. So I hope that makes sense, and we'll have a look at blockchain and cryptos now.